They don't talk about that. So we don't know. We really don't know all the fighters he beat. He could have been not clean in a lot of fights.
In a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me.
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd? You know, that's one of my favorite fighters. But yeah, nah.
Guess what I just got done studying? Guess what I just got done studying? Floyd Mayweather Zab Judah? Yep, that's what I just got done studying. And I'm here to tell you guys, yeah, Floyd Mayweather's a GOAT. Oh, absolutely.
Floyd Mayweather has responded to Terence Crawford's claims that he is the better fighter, but his response does little to increase the likelihood of a potential fight. Floyd acknowledged Crawford's impressive victory over Canelo, but he emphasized that Bud should not consider himself superior to the man who retired undefeated at 50-0. Mayweather emphasized that he has always been deliberate in his fighter rankings. In fact, long before his recent victory, Floyd consistently praised Crawford as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world today. His current message appears to be less about discrediting Crawford and more about preserving the untouchable legacy of Money Mayweather. However, the conversation has shifted dramatically. It is no longer just about respect. It has evolved into a direct challenge. The catalyst was Canelo Alvarez himself. In his post-fight press conference, the only man who has shared the ring with both of them made a stunning statement. "I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather." That single remark has sparked a firestorm. After all, no one knows both fighters' styles, power, and skills better than Canelo. His decision not only adds fuel to the fire, but it also forces the boxing world to seriously consider a previously unthinkable comparison. Crawford's stock has risen dramatically. By moving up 2 weight classes and decisively defeating Canelo, a fighter who appeared unbeatable at super middleweight for over a decade, he has entered a completely different historical league. Everyone is no longer debating whether Crawford is the best of this generation. The question is whether he can become the best male boxer in the 21st century. And right now, Floyd Mayweather is the only other name mentioned in that conversation. That is precisely what makes the prospect of a hypothetical matchup between them so captivating. It's not just a fight, it's a discussion about legacy, era, and greatness itself. Get down to Stephen A. Smith, explaining that boxing isn't just about who's the better fighter right now, it's about who owned the spotlight when it truly counted. From his perspective, Crawford, now in his mid-30s, is simply too late to the party. That super fight could have happened years ago when the demand and the money were at their peak. And Floyd feels that moment has now passed. That message landed in the middle of a heated debate on Stephen A. Smith's show. A rare moment where Floyd and Crawford sat across from each other, locking the entire boxing world onto their screens. Mayweather stayed calm, but his words carried immense weight. He essentially told Crawford, "You can win all you want, you can even beat the guys I never fought, but you're still not rewriting my history." With that, Floyd masterfully kept the spotlight fixed on his own legendary era, all while hinting that Crawford had simply arrived too late to ever share the ring with him. This debate is way bigger than just 2 fighters talking past each other. It split fans, analysts, and even current fighters right down the middle. Take Ryan Garcia, for example. He's never been shy about sharing his opinion, and he jumped into the fray with some sharp words for Mayweather during a recent interview. The moment got heated when former NFL star LaShawn McCoy argued that nobody changed the game like Floyd. Garcia cut him off instantly, firing back in a bad way. Garcia's point is that Floyd didn't just master boxing, he mastered the business of timing. He accused Mayweather of carefully selecting his opponents when it suited him, waiting until superstars like Pacquiao or De La Hoya were past their absolute primes. He never fought nobody really in their prime after junior lightweight, Garcia claimed, making the case that Floyd's undefeated record came from perfect matchmaking more than perfect fighting. And in Ryan's view, that's where boxing took a wrong turn. After Floyd, protecting the zero became more important than chasing the toughest fights, and the sport has been feeling that effect ever since. Max Kellerman stepped in with his own sharp take. As one of the boxing media's most insightful voices, he explained why Crawford may have a stronger claim to greatness than Floyd, depending on how you define legacy. Kellerman explained that, while Floyd's resume is undeniably full of big names, he frequently picks and chooses his moments, particularly after moving up from lightweight. As a result, people remember that he avoided certain fighters at their peak. Crawford, on the other hand, has a smaller resume in terms of volume, but, as Kellerman put it, he wanted it with everyone the whole time. That mindset, that willingness to face whoever was put in front of him, has a strong resonance with fans and shapes how they perceive his career. Finally, perception matters, and Crawford's fearless approach makes a significant difference in how people compare his greatness to Mayweather's. Floyd's resume reads like a who's who of boxing legends: Oscar de la Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto, Ricky Hatton, Juan Manuel Marquez, Shane Mosley, Arturo Gatti, Diego Corrales. It's a historic run of victories. However, critics such as Garcia and Kellerman argue that timing dims the shine. They point out that Pacquiao was older and noticeably slower in 2015. Shane Mosley was 38 years old and had recently returned from a lengthy absence. Cotto, presumably referring to Marcos Maidana, had already received years of punishment. And what about Canelo? He was only 23 years old and had to meet Floyd at a catchweight. Yes, Floyd won those fights, mostly decisively. But his critics will never forget the asterisk next to those victories. The question remains, did he beat them at their peak, or did he beat them when it was most beneficial to him? That is the sticking point that keeps this debate going. On the other hand, Crawford's resume tells a different story, one defined by intent over opportunity. His list of wins might not be as long, but the context matters. He didn't play the waiting game. He fought Sean Porter when Porter was still a dangerous threat to anyone. He didn't just beat Errol Spence at 35. He dismantled him, and he just shocked the world by moving up and dominating Canelo Alvarez in his own weight class. Crawford's issue was never hesitation, it was accessibility. For years, as a high-risk, low-reward fighter with top rank, he was largely avoided by big-name opponents, promoters, and networks. The biggest fights he wanted simply didn't materialize until later in his career. By the time he finally got his shot against Spence, he was already deep into his 30s. So while his resume may look thinner on paper, each victory carries a certain weight because Crawford always sought the toughest challenges, even when the sport made it difficult. Crawford is now 38 years old and undefeated 42-0, with undisputed titles in 3 weight classes and notable wins over Gamboa, Postal, Jeff Horn, Sean Porter, Errol Spence, and now Canelo Alvarez. On paper, the numbers still favor Floyd. 8 fewer wins than Mayweather's perfect 50-0 record may not seem like much, but in the legacy game, every digit matters. Crawford, on the other hand, has one card that Floyd has never played: the desire to fight in a 6th weight class. Mayweather retired at 154 pounds, making plenty of history, but never pursuing a title in the 6th division. If Crawford drops back to middleweight and wins a title there, he will have accomplished something Mayweather never attempted. That unwavering ambition to keep taking on bigger and bigger challenges could be the deciding factor in shifting the conversation in his favor. The timing of their careers adds another fascinating layer to this. Crawford won his first world title in 2014, just 1 year before Floyd famously beat Manny Pacquiao and then Andre Berto to cap off his historic run. Their eras technically overlapped, but just barely. If Floyd had stuck around a little longer, a super fight could have been possible. But by that point, Mayweather was already playing defense with his legacy, not offense. And that's really what he was telling Crawford on Stephen A. Smith's show, Don't Ask Me Now. If this fight was gonna happen, it would have been when the money was at its peak and public demand was through the roof. That moment has passed. No matter how impressive Crawford's wins are today, they can't retroactively pull Floyd back into the ring. The what-ifs remain just that. That won't stop fans from dreaming up the matchup, though. Picture it. Mayweather at 147 was a defensive genius, slippery, smart, and nearly impossible to hit clean. He broke opponents down mentally and physically, round by round, and dominated the welterweight division for a full decade, going a perfect 12-0 from age 28 to 38. Crawford, on the other hand, brought explosive power and a mean streak to the same weight class. A natural switch hitter with fight-ending power in both hands, he went 8-0 in just 5 years at welterweight. And most of those wins were brutal highlight reel finishes. He's also the taller, longer fighter, with far more versatility in stance and style. It's the classic matchup, flawless defense against explosive offense. And that's exactly why the debate is so compelling and so impossible to settle. In a mythical matchup, Crawford's size, aggression, and adaptability would have tested Mayweather's defense like few opponents ever could. Some fans compare the challenge to Paul Williams, another tall, high-volume welterweight who was long considered a stylistic nightmare for Floyd, which many believe is exactly why that fight never materialized. Now imagine that same problem, but with even sharper skills, switch-hitting versatility, and fight-changing power from the southpaw stance. It's not hard to see why so many believe that, for perhaps the first time in his career, Floyd would have had to truly sweat to protect that precious zero. However, Mayweather's defenders quickly point out that his style was practically engineered to shut down aggressive fighters. He wasn't just fast and slick, he was brilliantly economical. He did not need to throw 70 punches per round. He only needed to land the right 25 and make you miss 50. Floyd may have found ways to frustrate Crawford, just as he stifled a young aggressive Canelo in 2013, or completely neutralized Ricky Hatton's pressure in 2007. Then there is the intangible factor of stage presence. Floyd wasn't just a fighter, he was an event. He was the pay-per-view king, commanding global attention and literally freezing entire fight weekends. Crawford, as incredible as he is, never reached that level of superstardom, despite decisive victories over Spence and Canelo.